You know that quiet moment when you're staring at something you planned to do hours ago? The document is open, the tab is ready, the idea is sitting right there, almost within reach. And yet, something inside you stays still. Not laziness, not exactly resistance either, just a strange pause. Your mind drifts somewhere else for a moment. You scroll a little, you make tea, you check something that suddenly feels very important. And all the while, a small voice in the background whispers that you should have started already. Most people never notice how complicated that moment actually is. From the outside, it looks simple. A task exists, a person delays it, the explanation seems obvious. People call it laziness, poor discipline, a lack of motivation. But if you've experienced this pattern often, you probably know it doesn't feel that simple from the inside. Because many people who delay things the most are also the ones thinking about them the most. The task isn't forgotten, it's not ignored, it's sitting quietly in the back of your mind the entire time. And that's where the misunderstanding usually begins. Society tends to treat this pattern like a character flaw, something careless people do, something that could be fixed if someone just tried harder. But for a lot of people, the behavior isn't random at all. It's a pattern. A very human one. What we usually call procrastination. And strangely, it's rarely explained in the way it actually works. Most people imagine procrastination as a failure of willpower, as if the brain simply refuses to cooperate. But when psychologists began studying it more closely, they found something unexpected. In many cases, procrastination isn't about time management, it's about emotion management. When a task carries a certain emotional weight, pressure, uncertainty, fear of getting it wrong, the brain quietly begins to treat that task like a small threat. Nothing dramatic, just enough discomfort to make the nervous system hesitate. Neuroscience research has shown that when people anticipate a difficult or high-stakes task, areas of the brain connected to threat detection can become active. The mind interprets the task not just as work, but as potential discomfort. And the brain, very quietly, tries to protect you from that discomfort, not by refusing the task forever, just by postponing the moment you have to face it, for a few minutes, then maybe a little longer. It's a small form of avoidance, but it's not irrational. In fact, it's something the brain evolved to do very well. Avoid things that feel emotionally risky. What makes procrastination complicated is that the task itself is rarely the real problem. It's the meaning attached to it. Sometimes the task represents evaluation, a chance to fail publicly, a moment where your ability might be measured. Sometimes it represents uncertainty. You're not quite sure how it will go, and the mind dislikes stepping into situations without clear outcomes. And sometimes it represents expectations, your own or someone else's. Expectations can create a quiet pressure that the nervous system interprets as danger. So the brain buys time, not because it's lazy, because it's trying to regulate emotion. If you look back far enough, many of these patterns begin forming early, in childhood, in school environments, in moments where effort and evaluation became tightly linked. Some people learned very quickly that mistakes carried consequences, criticism, embarrassment, disappointment, so their nervous system adapted in a subtle way. It became more cautious around situations where performance mattered, not consciously, just quietly. Over time, the brain becomes skilled at detecting these emotional stakes before the task even begins, and that's when the hesitation appears. Again, none of this means the pattern is good or bad. Some people move toward pressure instinctively. Others pause and analyze before acting. Different nervous systems developed different strategies. Neither one is inherently superior. They simply come with different trade-offs. People who procrastinate often experience something others don't notice as much. They simulate outcomes in their minds before acting. They imagine mistakes before they happen. They mentally rehearse possibilities. That process can create hesitation, but it also creates depth of thought, and sometimes a surprising kind of creativity. There's an interesting paradox hidden in procrastination that researchers occasionally point out. Some of the same mental tendencies that cause delay, reflection, anticipation, imagining alternatives are also connected to problem solving and creative thinking. The mind wanders. It circles ideas. It waits until something internally aligns. Of course, that same pattern has a cost. While the brain is protecting you from discomfort, another part of you stays aware of the unfinished task. And that tension can quietly build. Not because you're incapable, because two systems inside the brain are negotiating. One wants to move forward, the other wants to reduce emotional risk first. That internal negotiation can look like procrastination from the outside, but from the inside, it's something closer to caution. The important thing most people never hear is that this pattern doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your nervous system learned to be sensitive to certain kinds of pressure. And sensitivity isn't a defect. It's simply a way of processing the world. Some minds rush into action. Others observe, hesitate, calculate, and then move. Every strategy developed for a reason. If you've recognized yourself in this pattern, it doesn't mean you're broken, unmotivated, or incapable of discipline. It means your brain is trying, sometimes clumsily, to protect you from emotional discomfort. And once you see that clearly, something interesting happens. The delay stops feeling like a personal failure. It starts looking more like a signal, a message about how your mind responds to pressure, uncertainty, and expectation. And understanding that signal changes the relationship you have with it, not instantly, but quietly. Because once you realize the behavior makes sense, the shame attached to it begins to loosen. And when shame disappears, the mind becomes a little less defensive, a little more willing to engage, which is often when movement begins. There are many small patterns like this hidden inside human behavior, habits we've been taught to judge that are actually the nervous system trying to adapt. And once you start noticing them, you begin to understand yourself in ways that most people never take the time to explore. If this pattern felt familiar, there are other parts of the mind that work in similar quiet ways. And once you see them, certain things about your own behavior start making a lot more sense.